I want to play my Fender Rarities Quilt Maple Top Stratocaster. We're going to find out if this thing's any good. This video isn't like other videos out there, you know, where they talk for like 20 minutes and then only play the guitar for like a minute, minute and a half. It's going to be a whole heck of a lot of playing. There's definitely going to be talking as well. That's enough talking. Let's get after it. You can't really do a review on YouTube unless you talk about the specs, right? I'm gonna try and do that quickly and then we'll get to 5 more sound samples. So starting off, we have a roasted alder body with a quilted maple top. We also have a 60s C-shaped neck. It is also a rosewood neck. So it's not a maple neck, it's a full rosewood neck. The frets here are the Fender narrow tall. We also have the Fender 6-in-line vintage style tuners here with a bone nut. The pickups here are the 65 pure vintage gray bottom single coils. And the bridge here is the pure vintage synchronized tremolo system with the bent steel saddles. And if this pickguard looks a little different, it is the gold anodized aluminum pickguard. That's enough about the specs. It's pretty quick, right? There's 5 more sound samples. So now that we've heard those 5 sound samples, the next part I like to say I'm doing to appease the internet. So I'm trying to prevent tears from forming themselves into comments. It is very beneficial though, so we're going to play all 5 pickup positions here in clean. But I've always been the kind of player that kind of enjoys to hear how the pickups react to a little bit of light drive, so here's that. So this is a traditional Strat style setup. So we have a master volume and then we have 2 tones here. So let's just do bridge and then neck, and we'll actually hear how the volume and the tones actually sound. So that's it for all of the sound samples and all the different playing there. So what I do like to do at this point in the video is actually talk about my thoughts on the guitar itself, because throughout the video you've been able to hear whether or not you think it sounds like it's a good guitar, albeit in my hands, and my choice of what I'm playing. But it's nice to get that perspective from someone else to see, you know, what they think of the guitar, and then, you know, hopefully if you have an opportunity to find one of these and then play it for yourself, you can kind of make your own decision. So a few key points here would be the Pure Vintage 65 pickups. These are fantastic pickups. These are probably one of my favorite pickups that I've played so far in a Stratocaster. And as a note here, I have stayed away from the custom shop reissues from Fender. I might end up going, I'll probably end up going in that direction. But so far these are the nicest sounding pickups that I've played through on a Strat. They're very reactive. It's got a nice low end to it. The top end isn't too much either. It's not that really crazy ice picky sound. It's got like just a nice balance to it. And the neck here, it's not too thick. It is that 60s C profile, but it's not that crazy like modern C or modern D or anything like that, where it's, you know, really out there. I wouldn't liken it to like a slim taper, maybe a little thicker than a Gibson slim taper. But it is a very comfortable neck to play with. Now, I've always been someone that's been a little, you know, thrown off without a 22nd fret. So the fact that this has 21 frets hasn't actually bothered me very much. I actually find it rather comfortable to play. Sometimes I do definitely miss that 22nd fret, but it's not something that I miss all that often because you can do so much with 21. The one thing that I've found a little hard to get used to with this guitar over the years are the tuners. So it's that vintage style tuner, so you don't just feed the string through, you kind of you push it down, bring it around, you wrap, like I basically, anytime I have to change strings on this guitar, I watch a video. It's not very often that I do, but I end up watching a video, and I think it's the StewMac one, and that's how I change the strings here. So in the future, with going, because I will be going in the direction of the reissues, the 50s and early 60s reissues. That is something I'll just have to get used to. The other thing to note here, which is a little scary for a lot of people, myself included, however, I'll give you an update on that afterwards. The truss rod. So to adjust the truss rod, it's down here. And there's no real access to it to get it unless you take, you know, the pick guard off, and then even then, you really should be. A lot of people say you should take the neck off, which is a little weird to me. I've never had to adjust the truss rod on this guitar, which is very nice and convenient. Both of the guitars that I have owned that have had this feature to it have had no movement whatsoever, which is very rare to me on a Strat, because usually after winter here in Canada, when it's like April, I usually, you know, take like an hour or so and just set up my Strats over again, because the temperature change is so drastic where I live, and there's usually a little bit of movement in the necks of all of my Fender guitars. So that is something that I've had to get used to, but I've never had to do anything to this guitar, thankfully. And I'm not really a tremolo kind of guy. I tend to avoid them unless it's, you know, like a Maestro Vibrola or something like that, and it's built into the guitar, or, you know, like a Bigsby. But I just find that I tend to overuse it. So for Strats, I've always just kept the whammy bar or the tremolo arm completely off. That's it. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Do you own this guitar? Have you ever owned this guitar? Are you, trying to hunt one down like I had to do for this to actually find one brand new a couple of years ago? That's really it. Thanks for watching.